I think I shared with you yesterday that I had been praying because I am going through some transitions right now. I need to make some decisions, and God's not telling me to move forward on what I think that He wants me to do, what I am understanding that we're likely going to be doing. And so He's not giving me that go ahead, and so I'm having to sit tight. And, you might, as you are considering this, you might also recognize that it can be more difficult for us to sit tight than to actually do something, at least like know where we're going. Sitting here and waiting for him to answer me that here's where we're moving or this is what he wants me to do is a lot harder because I've got to trust and I've got to remind myself of what he's told me thus far. And when you're not hearing about what to do, it can be very frustrating and faith building. And so I had asked him to at least, if he's willing, confirm for me that I'm not supposed to be hearing about something that I'm supposed to be doing right now. And he did. He confirmed it for me in a dream. He ministered the dream to me, and he talked with me about how he's building me right now, how he's removing things. And, the short of the long of it is that I was roller skating and there were these tables, like I just kept feeling like unsteady on the skates, and I kept grabbing these tables and then the table would be taken from me. It would be snatched away or it would suddenly disappear, and then I'd be unstable again, and I specifically remember having to use my core strength in order to get steady again. And then I'd start to feel shaky again, and I'd grab onto another table and that table would disappear, and I'd have to use my core strength again. And before I even woke up, in fact, what he was waking me up with were his words telling me, I am taking away, I am removing the things that you have been using to make you feel steady. And so this is a very uncomfortable time for me right now. If you have been through this, if you're in him, you've been through this. It is extremely uncomfortable because he's bringing me even lower. He's stripping me even more of anything that I've been using. And a lot of times the things that I've been using at this point are things that, I need, like, I don't know, food. You're eating normally and then you start to slip into some bad behavior and you start to use that food as an idol, and it's something you still need, but now you're using it incorrectly. It's like stuff like that. But I even sense that it's more than that, even though I don't totally know where he's taking me right now. Like, I don't totally know what is he addressing with me right now. And that's kind of a weird thing because usually I know what he's convicting me of. And so now I'm just kind of here waiting and sorting through. And now that I'm talking about it, the things that he's been showing me are more than the things like food. It's things like planning. Because this is what I've been taking up with him today. I've been saying, I could have held on to that property a little bit longer and maybe rented it out. Like, why did you have me hold on to this property and not really do anything with it? Those are not decisions that I would have made as a businesswoman. But he didn't tell me to rent it out. He had me understanding that I feel like that place is, I don't want to say that the place is holy because a place is not holy, but I feel like that place is his. And I don't feel comfortable, have not felt comfortable having anyone else occupy that place. I mean, I put it together with him. I remodeled it with him. I asked him about every single thing. I was built as I was remodeling that place. He was building me while we were cleaning that place up. But it doesn't totally make sense to me why he would have me, it doesn't make sense in terms of my training in the world. Like, my training in the world is make good, savvy business decisions and make money where you can. But he has completely stripped me of that. I don't make decisions apart from him, and that's not something he told me to do. And yet, the place has not been occupied. Someone lives on the grounds, but the place has not been occupied in terms of business. So I just sit here now going, well, what do you want me to do with that place? If I'm not using it, why did you have me do all this? Why have you had me like reduce my income, reduce the finances that I have to live on? Why are you bringing it so low? Are you really going to bring me from a place of working all those years for my retirement and saving up to just using all of that up and trusting that you're going to provide the manna each day, even though you've taken me out of a career that I still owe on? I mean, this is not, I don't know anyone who's done this. I don't know anyone who would think that this is intelligent. And yet I know what I've heard from God. But I'm in a really weird spot right now because none of it makes sense in any other way. But yet God doesn't make sense to the world. And I believe in him more than I'm going to cower, more than I'm going to hold on to anything, because he won't forsake me even if I was wrong. I believe that with all my heart. And if I believe it, it's got to come out of my works. It's got to come out of my right hand, my forehead, and the things I'm saying. I can't live in opposition to that. I'm not a hypocrite or a coward, but I don't know anyone doing this. Do you? So the thing that I'm doing, and the thing that I do when I get to this place where I'm not necessarily hearing anything and he wants me to sit tight, is I know that he wants me to build my faith. I know he wants me to remind myself of what he's done, who he is, and what his word says. And to be honest, all I know right now is I don't have any current examples of anyone doing what I'm doing. And so I have to go back to his word. And so I just search his word to see, okay, what did your servants go through? How did they hold on? How were they crying out to you? Is this consistent? And yes, it is consistent. So I'm just going to read with you where he actually took me. He didn't actually take me. I mean, I was intending to go to Jeremiah because Jeremiah is the one prophet who really spoke the most, David as well, who spoke the most about, crying out to God. I relate with them because they were constantly like, what's going to be next and what's next and what's next. And that's how I feel all the time. Okay, what's next? Where are we going now? But he actually took me to Isaiah 8, so that's where I'm going to start. And he actually had me start reading at verse 19. And I'll be honest that the first thing that I thought when he brought me here was, I've read that a million times. How is that going to help me? I still do it, but listen, sometimes I have that little bit of I'm just exhausted and frustrated, but I listen, I obey. And he is giving me some comfort with it, and I started to get comfort, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys. So, verse 19. When someone tells you to consult mediums and spiritists who whisper and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Now listen, part of the thing, like you may not be consulting with a psychic or a spiritist or whatever, but part of what he's putting on me is there's no difference from consulting with a psychic versus all of the experts of the world. If we're the world is the world. If we're consulting with the world about what steps we should be taking, if I were to tell my financial advisor the choices that I've been making and hold their opinion over what God is directing me to do, they would be leading me in a different direction. And that's no different. It does not matter what title you put on them. If you're holding someone else up as an expert on what you should be doing in your life, how you should be handling your finances, whatever it is, you're placing something before God. If God wanted to make me a trillionaire right now, he could do that even with the stupid decisions that I made on my own or the decisions that I made with him that are foolish to the world. He can do whatever he wants. We think we're so slick. We think we're so smart. But you know what? I didn't take a single business class. There was no business class in my training. And yet I made quite a bit more than the people in my field. I was very successful and I had a lot of accounts, and God did that. He's the one who did that. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, no one can have anything unless God gives it. That goes for gifts, it goes for finances, it goes for everything. So I consider it the foolish decision to spurn what God is telling me to do in favor for some expertise of the world. He gets to do whatever he wants with me. When someone tells you to consult mediums and spiritists who whisper and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Why consult the dead on behalf of the living? Consult God's instruction and the testimony of warning. The testimony of warning. That's what I do with you. I share a testimony of warning. If anyone does not speak according to this word, they have no light of dawn. Distressed and hungry, they will roam through the land. When they are famished, they will become enraged, and looking upward will curse their king and their God. Then they will look toward the earth and see only distress and darkness and fearful gloom, and they will be thrust into utter darkness. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who were in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, but in the future, he will honor Galilee of the nations by way of the sea, beyond the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. You know, the people of Isaiah's time were looking forward to the coming of the Lord, and the people of our time are looking forward to the return of the Lord, to bring these promises to fulfillment. And so the distress that people were feeling up until that time with the increasing wickedness is very similar to what we're experiencing at this time in history. And they were hanging on these promises. They were hanging on the words on the word. Just as we, when we're going through these times, when we're, shaken up, when we're being threshed, when we're being stripped and brought low, and our faith is being built, we're hanging on these words. We've got to hang on these words. This is our only hope. The Lord has sent a message against Jacob. It will fall on Israel. All the people will know it. Ephraim and the inhabitants of Samaria, who say with pride and arrogance of their heart, the bricks have fallen down, but we will rebuild with dressed stone. The figs have been felled, but we will replace them with cedars. Oh, goodness, is that not what's said now? Not going to return to God. We'll rebuild. We're survivors. I can't even give ourselves life, but we're survivors. Good grief. Our life could be taken in a second. We're not surviving anything without God. But the Lord has strengthened Rezin's foes against them and has spurred their enemies on. Arameans from the east and Philistines from the west have devoured Israel with open mouth. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. But the people have not returned to him who struck them, nor have they sought the Lord Almighty. What does he require? The people have not returned to him who struck them, nor have they sought the Lord Almighty. So the Lord will cut off from Israel both head and tail, both palm branch and reed in a single day. The elders and dignitaries are the head. The prophets who teach lies are the tail. Those who guide this people mislead them, and those who are guided are led astray. Therefore the Lord will take no pleasure in the young men, nor will he pity the fatherless and the widows. For everyone is ungodly and wicked. Every mouth speaks folly. You know what I received today? I received a message on a video in which I spoke about the cross, and I spoke on the word, and I spoke on what the cross is. It's an image to Tammuz. It's an image, period. You weren't supposed to set up anything. How did we not understand that? And someone posted that I sound like the Mormons. Okay. And that Jesus kissed the cross before he died. What? Where's that in the Bible? Excuse me? You just got done telling me that I'm teaching falsely and you go drop that off? That's a doozy. I mean, it's like laughable in a way, but also grievous. Where did you get that from? That sounds like the Catholic Bible to me. Those who guide this people mislead them, and those who are guided are led astray. How dare you come at me and tell me I'm teaching falsely and then go drop off false doctrine? That is lunacy and ironic and bizarre. Those who guide this people mislead them, and those who are guided are led astray. And you know what? You want to gather around yourself false teachers to tell you what your itching ears want to hear? You want to hold on to your images? I mean, go ahead. It's your choice. But you should know that it's pretty foolish to come against God's people like you couldn't take 2 seconds to look that up to make sure it's true, to say a prayer and ask if what I'm saying is correct, to discern and wonder, is this an image? No one ever talked about a cross on a steeple or setting up a cross. They talked about the significance of the cross. But see, listen, this is an example of what I deal with on a daily basis in the hearts of counterfeit Christians who would rather believe the things that they have, the doctrines that they have gathered around them, that they're ingesting, and they wonder why they're wandering this world, staggering drunk on that false doctrine with vomit all over their tables. They wonder why they're feeling a particular way, and they wonder why God has brought certain circumstances in their life. Well, let me tell you why. Therefore, the Lord will take no pleasure in the young men, nor will he pity the fatherless and widows. For everyone is ungodly and wicked, every mouth speaks folly. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away, his hand is still upraised. Surely wickedness burns like a fire, it consumes briars and thorns. It sets the forest thickets ablaze, so that it rolls upward in a column of smoke. By the wrath of the Lord Almighty, the land will be scorched, and the people will be fuel for the fire. They will not spare one another. On the right they will devour, but still be hungry. On the left they will eat, but not be satisfied. Each will feed on the flesh of their own offspring. Manasseh will feed on Ephraim, and Ephraim on Manasseh. Together they will turn against Judah. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. What will you do on the day of reckoning when disaster comes from afar? To whom will you run for help? Where will you leave your riches? Nothing will remain but to cringe among the captives or fall among the slain. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. You understand? He's talking about wrath and judgment on his people. So no one needs say God's wrath. Oh, he doesn't bring wrath or punishment on his people. Baloney. He has brought wrath and punishment on his people, the entire word. When Paul is saying that his wrath is not for his people, he's talking about his great wrath. And that is the bowls of wrath that will be poured out after the resurrection. That is the first 45 days of his wrath that occur before the resurrection. So God's people will be here, but they will be passed over during his great wrath. But to have people handed over to the Antichrist, I mean, who did you think was going to be handed over? And why? If God is not handing you over to the spirit you've chosen. Too many people, holding on to that rapture doctrine. What will you do? What will you do? When you see that Antichrist rise in a couple years, what you going to do? A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might, the Spirit of the knowledge and fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. With the breath of his lips he will slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. The wolf will live with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the goat. The calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear. Their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the cobra's den, and the young child will put its hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Now let me ask you, has this happened yet? Okay, then don't say that this is referring to when Jesus came the first time. This has not happened yet. Yes, there is reference to the first coming of Christ, and also there is reference to the return of Christ. In that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his resting place will be glorious. In that day, the Lord will reach out his hand a second time to reclaim the surviving remnant of his people from Assyria, from Lower Egypt, from Upper Egypt, from Cush, from Elam, from Babylonia, from Hamath, and from the islands of the Mediterranean. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. All right, what are we talking about? We talking about the lost tribes of Israel? Is that what we're talking about? Are we talking about ethnic Jews? No. Not all who are Israel are descended from Israel. Not all who are Abraham's children or descendants are descended from Abraham. Some of them are ethnically Jewish, but there are all kinds of ethnicities. God does not care about ethnicity. What is ethnicity? Ethnicity is the basis by which the world separates you. God doesn't do that, so you need not do that. When God talks about lost sheep, is he literally saying that these are sheep? Or do you understand that he has likened you to sheep and himself to a shepherd? Okay, so then if those who are scattered and lost, he identifies as being Israel, could that mean you? Yeah, we've been scattered and lost. You know why? Because when the shepherd was struck, as it is written, the sheep were scattered, and we were scattered all throughout the nations. What are the nations? The world. In the beginning, he told his people to remain in Jerusalem. Once salvation was extended to the Gentiles, we're all over the world, guys. But you know what he's doing is plucking us out in the spirit and bringing us together, pulling us together from the four corners of the earth. Does that mean that he has to give us a ticket to Israel? No. Israel is his church. Israel is not land. Israel is not an ethnicity. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. That's you. You are not here on this channel by mistake. You've not been extended the opportunity to assemble with us on Sabbath in the spirit online. You don't even have to turn on your camera. We don't use our camera. We just assemble in the spirit. We talk about what God has given us to share with the body. And most of you are spitting on that. You can't be bothered. So how can you say you're being gathered? And don't question why you will remain here during the Antichrist reign. You should know. I'm telling you right now, that is why. If you can't be bothered to show up for the body, you can't be bothered to do the things he's commanded, you're too busy holding on to your counterfeit church, you can't pray and ask God if what I'm saying is true, that is why. He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. Ephraim's jealousy will vanish, and Judah's enemies will be destroyed. Ephraim will not be jealous of Judah, nor Judah hostile toward Ephraim. They will swoop down on the slopes of Philistia to the west. Together they will plunder the people to the east. They will subdue Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites will be subject to them. Now, who's he talking about when he talks about Ephraim and Judah? There's a jealousy that has occurred between Jews and Gentiles. That will no longer be. Ephraim will no longer be jealous of Judah. Jews will no longer be jealous of Gentiles. Nor Judah hostile toward Ephraim. Gentiles will no longer be hostile toward Jews. That's a reconciliation that occurs through Christ. They will swoop down on the slopes of Philistia to the west. Together they will plunder the people to the east. They will subdue Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites will be subject to them. The Lord will dry up the gulf of the Egyptian sea. With a scorching wind, he will sweep his hand over the Euphrates River. He will break it up into 7 streams, so that anyone can cross over in sandals. There will be a highway for the remnant of his people that is left from Assyria, as there was for Israel when they came up from Egypt. In that day you will say, I will praise you, Lord, although you are angry with me. Your anger has turned away, and you have comforted me. Oh, God was angry with you, but I thought God didn't punish. He didn't bring wrath on his people. It's a lie. Oh, you think the devil's doing that? Is that, and you're screaming at the devil to stop doing that in the name of Jesus. How's that working for you? We need not be foolish. The word says that God will punish his people, that he does bring wrath on us, that he does discipline, punish, warn, and then he brings wrath. God's great wrath is not for his people, because by the time he brings his great wrath, his people will have been harvested in, not taken up yet, but they will be harvested in terms of having that seal of God. The seal that tells the destroying angel to pass over his people, just like he did in the first Passover. I will praise you, Lord, although you were angry with me. Your anger has turned away, and you have comforted me. Surely God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. The Lord himself is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. In that day you will say, give praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make known among the nations what he has done, and proclaim that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done glorious things. Let this be known to all the world. Shout aloud and sing for joy, people of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel among you. So there's our hope to look forward to. And there's also understanding. We need to have understanding of the wrath that is going to be brought on God's people. They are going to be handed over. They are going to experience consequences for their sin. Judgment begins with God's church. I mean, what do we think that means? Or are we too busy making up our own stories about it? I'm working something out right now. And as upset as I get or frustrated as I get when I'm sitting and trying to understand, what are you doing, Lord? What are you doing with me? Because this is really hard. Have I not given enough already? No, I haven't. I don't get to judge by my own standards. And let me tell you something. I've given a lot. I've given my whole life, my livelihood, my careers, trusting in what I do not know is going to happen. I do not know. He did not lay out the plan for me. I simply followed when he called me. And even the things he's told me, I have to hold on to those things. I have to remind myself of what he has said to me. It's not easy. I'm working something out here. I'm working out my covenant with him. I'm working out my salvation, and I'm demonstrating my faith. And that faith is coming from my heart, first of all, but it also has to be coming out of what? My right hand, my forehead, and my mouth, my deeds, my thoughts, and the way that I speak. What's coming out of my deeds, my thoughts, and the way I speak is coming from my heart. That is why you will be justified by your heart on the day of the Lord. But if you have no deeds, you have no thoughts, you have no declarations that are reflective of faith, your faith is dead, my friend. Faith without works is dead. Got a lot of messages on that one too, that I'm teaching a works-based ministry. No, I'm teaching what the word speaks. That's what the word speaks. And any other ministry is dead. Any other gospel is dead. It will not save. There's a hope that is set before us. One of the other things that I'm receiving in this passage that he led me to is that confirmation of the frustration that I feel in doing this every day and people coming against the message. It's not my message. They're not coming against me. And in fact, I was talking with Rachel today, and we were talking about people who get all upset about what I'm saying as though I've spoken this message directly to them. They don't even comprehend that I don't have the ability to convict you. If you're feeling convicted by a message, it's from God. That conviction is coming from God, not from me. So if you feel all worked up about it, you got to take it to him. You got to sort out why you feel that way. And if I'm wrong, then you should be able to show me in scripture, why am I wrong? Why is the message I'm speaking incorrect? Otherwise, you got to consider what I'm saying, don't you? If you have a heart for God, you have to consider what I'm saying. Over and over, that's the story in scripture. That's the story from God's servants, that no one is listening, and that God even tells them when he's preparing them, such as Ezekiel, you speak to this people. I'm sending you to a people who are, they don't have they're not speaking another language, some obscure language. They should understand what it is that you're saying. I'm sending you to my own people, and you speak these words, whether they listen or they fail to listen, whether they listen or they fail to listen. That is the position I'm in, whether they listen or they fail to listen. And you know what? What did we calculate? 0.02% of this channel actually listen. You might be hearing it, but 0.02 actually listen and respond. Actually do the work, show up to the assemblies. Why? It's a problem. Either you've discerned me to be from God or you haven't. And if you haven't, then you need to pray about that. But if you have, why are you not listening to what I'm saying? If you have discerned that what I'm saying is true, that we are at the end, that his witnesses are here right now, calling you in and telling you, these are the things that are incorrect, these are the things that are correct, this is what you must do in order to return to God and be saved, and you can't be bothered, what's going on there? If you hear me saying the fourth trumpet is going to blow, and after that fifth trumpet, no one repents, so you have a limited amount of time to get to be harvested in, even though you will continue to remain here. Don't misunderstand what harvested in means. We're not talking about a pre-tribulation rapture. If you hear me saying that, what do you do with that? Do you then go pray and ask God, is what Carrie's saying, is this true, Lord? What do I need to be doing right now? Should I be showing up to these commanded assemblies? Should I continue to go to this church that I'm going to? Or have you provided me with something else? Listen, many are called. Just because you're being called is not to your credit. That is to his credit. Many are called. Few are chosen. Many can hear the message. Few listen to the message. Few respond to the message. And this channel is proof of that. Why would there be this many people subscribed to a message that they're not listening to, that they're not responding to? Being called to something, but can't be bothered to respond. God's voice will not be in you for that long. You are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of the light. That's what Jesus said while he was still among them. Listen, respond. And what I'm saying to you is that light is going to go out during the fourth trumpet. It will go out in each and every person who has been swearing falsely in his name, who could not be bothered to pick up their covenant and respond to what they have heard, his shepherd's warning, that testimony of warning. They could not respond. They would not respond. And it's not because of God. You don't get to justify yourself by condemning him, because he has sent shepherds, he's given you his word, and he's given you his spirit. Some of you I have spoken with personally or communicated with you through email and text and YouTube comments. Where are you guys? Have I not made myself available to you for free? Have we not had conversations where you could ask me any question you wanted to ask me, and then you could go to God and ask him, is what she's saying true? So what's your excuse? This is bizarre. It's bizarre. But you need to know that light is going to go out. Fourth trumpet, that's it. No one repents after the fifth trumpet. Don't think that you're going to get harvested in after the fifth trumpet. It won't happen. You have been warned. I have been warning for over a year now on this channel. You are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they're going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of the light.